Hey everybody, if you stopped in by the way for AMA, it's going to be right after this little news. Today is Wednesday, we're going to cover the news. I had 10 pieces of news, I think I missed the week. So this will just last about 20 minutes. We won't take any questions, but as soon as this the news is done, I will go ahead and launch. I will launch another stream and we'll jump into the AMA. So AMA should start roughly around, I think, for in about 25 minutes or so. So anyway, I'm going to kick off the news, guys. We'll get that done. And then if you're interested in the AMA, please come back on the next stream. It'll be right after you complete the news. So appreciate that. So today's Wednesday, September 16th. I'm Kevin Murcko, CEO here at CoinMetro, and this is something we like to call This Week in Crypto. I'm going to go over usually 5 pieces of news. This week I have 10 because last week I was 5. So 10 pieces of news from the week of the 11th through the week of the 16th. Go ahead and go over each one and give a comment on this one. If they talk about something that triggers me, Binance, for example, it may take more than a minute or so. Normally it's about a minute, but let's say 1 to 2 minutes per news story. Give a comment. And let you guys know what's going on in this crazy market. We all love and hate at the same time. So let's start off with number 1 on my list. This is from the week of September 11th. This is from last week, guys. Number 1 on the list of 5 from last week. Bitfinex files motion. So hold on. Thanks for the sound check. Usually I ask for a sound check. Give me a second. Let me fix that.
Okay. All right, guys. Let me know if the mic is better, and we'll start over. All right, cool. So yeah, wrong mic was selected. So thanks for pointing that out. All right, going to start over again, guys. By the way, again, this is news. AMA will kick off right afterward. Somebody's going to have to edit this video now because obviously. Anyway, we're live, but somebody let it afterward, make this nice, cut all this nonsense out about me not knowing how to set up my mic. So yeah, here we go. So today's Wednesday, September 16th. I'm Kevin Murcko, CEO here at CoinMetro. This is something we like to call This Week in Crypto. I usually have 5 pieces of news to go over that were curated by our elite Telegram group. Thanks, guys and gals, for that. This week I have 10, since last week I was traveling and missed last week, unfortunately. So we have 5 pieces of news from the week of the 11th and 5 pieces of news from the week of September 16th. That's this week. I'll go over each one, give a comment. Usually takes about a minute or 2. If I get triggered, which usually means it mentions Binance, it may take me a few more minutes to just go through my entirety of my rant. But here we go. Let's get started. Last week of September 11th, news story number 1 of 5. Bitfinex files motion to dismiss allegations for Bitcoin manipulation. Cites lack of proof. Yeah, so obviously any defendant or in any case is usually going to try and just get its case dismissed. That's pretty normal, right? So I think there's lots of motions against Bitfinex, lots of charges that have been filed. They may be able to skirt around 1, 2, 3, or several of them, but there's enough charges, I think, and there's enough further investigations going on that something's going to stick. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out over time. You can argue if it's good or bad for the industry as a whole. I think anything like this, especially if it ends up with them not only getting charged, but also being found guilty, could potentially see a kind of both scenarios play out, where initially there's an impact on prices on the market, where Bitcoin may take a hit as the leader of the market, and you may see correlation throughout alts and throughout most other micro and mid caps. However, in the long term, weeding through and getting rid of the nonsense in this market is not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that I'm for over-regulation, because I'm not. But regulation is key to helping us collectively make a mature market. And when things like these alleged crimes happen, they affect everybody. And they basically make us go 10 steps backwards to take 1 step forward. And that doesn't usually lead to progress that most people want to see. So number 2 on the list of 10, Binance. Well, here we go. Ding, ding, ding. jumps on the DeFi bandwagon with Binance Launch Pool. Yep, it was just a matter of time before greedy CZ got his dirty little hands into whatever new bubble may be popping up in crypto, because, you know, if there's a way to make quick and easy money, CZ's on it. So there you go. So Binance jumping in, creating what I guess they'd probably call a decentralized liquidity pool. You all should know at this point that anything that is labeled decentralized on the Binance side is about as centralized as a central bank. So essentially a centralized liquidity pool, simply trying, look, in business, we're all here to make money. So the fact that, you know, a business that has an enormous amount of free capital is using that free capital to create products where they can make additional money. I've talked about making additional revenue streams 1 billion times on our AMAs and even on this show as well. And at the end of the day, that's what companies need to do, especially in the crypto space, to make sure that they maintain their business over time. That's fine. I just have a real problem with companies, you know, like Binance, for the simple fact that they don't follow the rules. And it's much harder for companies like, you know, CoinMetro, for example, or any other company that follows any type of rules to basically be able to compete in the eyes of many people in the industry. I think we can compete just fine because I think we provide a much more stable infrastructure. The problem is that obviously it takes time for the rest of the public to understand that, but we're getting there. And soon that's going to happen. You can take that as a relative soon, or as, I don't know, soon +5 or soon +2. I don't know what exactly in the soon matrix it sits. Number 4 on a list of, number 3 on a list of 10, list of 5, last week, September 11th, blockchain platform commercializes blockchain platform commercializes digital bank guarantees in Australia. Right on. So we have like 4 buzzwords in one sentence. So blockchain platform commercializing digital bank guarantees. Okay, digital bank guarantee, well, that's a debt instrument. So basically they've digitalized a debt instrument in Australia on the blockchain. So let me stand up and clap, and somebody in Australia should be taking a bow. And don't really have much to say about this one other than to say that, look, the digitalization of securities is going to happen everywhere, right? Everywhere. It's going to happen on every market. Every type of security is going to be digitalized. People make the mistake of I mean, even myself would talk about tokenization, because at the end of the day, you are taking an asset and you're turning it into tokens, right? You're turning it into these digital tokens that exist on a blockchain. In reality, what we're doing is digitalizing. We're taking a dematerialized, which to some extent is already what most people would consider to be digital, because there's no, you know, paper certificate, or there's no, but we're taking this this asset that probably sits on some standardized database, and we're putting it onto blockchain, or DLT. So in that form, we are making it more digital, and we're making the ability to move that more seamless, et cetera. So we're going to see this a lot. And we're going to see lots of stories like this. And eventually these stories won't be stories anymore, because everybody will have done it. But it's good to see that there's progress being made on all different continents around the world in terms of taking the dematerialized asset industry and putting it digital. Number 4 on a list of 5 from last week, European crypto tax companies announce merger to power US expansion. European crypto tax companies. I'm assuming these guys are probably giving advice on how to file taxes when it comes to when you're dealing in crypto. Famously, I think most of the internet has already been talking about how the US this year, for the last filing year, instead of having this question about whether or not you have assets in crypto somewhere on the last page of the filing, it's now on the first page in the first 5 questions. And that simply shows that, one, they don't have enough information to already know if you're already into these assets, but they have enough information to assume you might be. So just goes to show that eventually the tax man will cometh. And you know, I guess there needs to be a lot more clarity, especially from different jurisdictions, about how these type of assets and the gains are treated. Are they capital gains? Are they treated more like income, et cetera? And some countries have been more on the forefront of trying to at least tell their citizenry how exactly they want to treat these assets. Many countries, though, haven't said much. So it's still a bit of a gray area around the world. So I'm assuming this, you know, these companies that deal with crypto tax probably are going to get a good amount of business over the next probably 2 to 3 years. Once we have more clarity from different jurisdictions, that business model is probably going to die and just go right back to just basic tax counseling, which will include crypto assets, not necessarily be a crypto tax. That's like the blockchain lawyers, right? For some time in this industry, especially during the ICO bubble, you had this whole new type of lawyering that came to be, blockchain lawyering. When in reality, what is the blockchain? Well, you obviously are doing contracts. It's contractual law. You're probably dealing with regulation with some of that. So it's regulatory law. It could be potentially other types of law that kind of fit between both contractual law and regulatory law. Anyway, it's nothing new. But you had all these new attorneys that popped up, and I guess we're having the same thing happen now with tax consultants. But just like blockchain attorneys now are just attorneys again, I think the same thing's going to happen here. Number 5 on a list of 5 from last week: Biththumb's exchange office is raided again by Korean authorities. Yeah, so Korea. I guess I don't know what. I haven't seen any news about specifically what Korea has found. Why they. I know the allegation, but we haven't really seen anything past the allegation. So I could applaud this and say, well, the regulator's doing their job because that's their job. I could applaud it by saying they're helping clean up the market. But at the same time, perhaps they're going in there for reasons that are unjustified. And I simply don't know. So I would say that it's potentially a good thing, but it potentially could be simply a very quick pivot in South Korea to try and criminalize or shut down the crypto industry that they let grow to an extent, and now they simply want to shave off the top. So I don't know yet. Could be good, could be bad. I think at the end of the day, what it shows is when you're based in a jurisdiction and you're running a business, especially a regulated one, you need to make sure that you're in constant communication with those regulators. You understand the changes in the law and you adapt to them. Because if you don't, you'll be the next Bitthumb. So that's 5 from last week. Let's move on to this week, guys. The week of September 16th. Number 1 on a list of 5 from this week. Again, my favorite company in the world. Binance is sued by Japanese crypto exchange Fisco for allegedly facilitating the laundering of $9 million. So Binance getting sued obviously makes my heart grow a bit bigger and just makes me feel real comfy inside. And I kind of just feel like eating cookies and taking a nap. But on the other side of that, it's kind of a frivolous lawsuit, and I'll tell you why. So basically, this Japanese company that owned a crypto exchange that was hacked, that lost something like 60 million in a hack, found out probably through different companies such like Parsec, Chain Analysis, et cetera. They did some analytical work, and they found out that 9 million roughly of those funds were traded through Binance. And their allegation is that Binance's KYC is, well, shit, and that's true. And because of that, because their KYC process is pretty much non-existent, or where it does exist, it's absolute horseshit, that basically these criminals were allowed to launder that money through the Binance platform, and they're trying to make Binance culpable. Now, while I love that scenario, and I would love to see Binance, go down in flames because they do facilitate a lot of illegal activity. I can almost guarantee you that, whether they do it knowingly or unknowingly. Because their system is so lax in terms of KYC and KYT, this, I think, legally speaking, is going to fall on its face. Why? Well, it's not Binance's fault that this other company was hacked. And yes, Binance may, or in my opinion, most definitely doesn't do KYC and KYT as they should. However, that's not the case here. This is a civil case trying to get money from Binance because they allowed a criminal that stole money from a company that had lax security to push those funds through their platform. I think that falls on its face. But I think it makes a good precedent in one light, and that's simply because it's starting to show the world what everybody collectively in crypto, at least those in the know, already know, and that the so-called leader of the crypto industry, at least when it comes to exchanges, is an absolute horseshit when it comes to the structure of their internal policies, and that needs to change. So I like that, but I do think the lawsuit not gonna go anywhere. Number 2 on a list of 5 from this week: New York Attorney General to Bitfinex and Tether, delays must stop. So yeah, they're getting the finger waved at them right now. Come on, guys. They've been asking for what should be a button push by the CFO from these companies. Literally, the CFO should be able to log into a system somewhere and go boop, and all the information that the New York State Attorney General has asked for should come out in a report. At the very least, it should be in a database somewhere where a tech or somebody on sysops or whatever could be able to pull it in a day, and it's been months. So obviously they're trying to delay, and it's probably because, well, they either had no books or they're trying to fabricate some books and they're trying to do it really well, which they probably should have just kept books in the first place. Or they've kept books and they're simply really, really bad and they don't want them to come to light and they're shredding them. So nothing about that looks good. What I would say, this is still an inquiry. I don't think there's been official charges yet from the New York State Attorney General. So, but it seems like they're losing patience. And that's not good for Bitfinex and Tether, though it could be part of their, it could almost, well, there's probably an 80% chance that these delays are part of their plan, part of Bitfinex and Tether's plan of how they're going to defend themselves. In law, look, if you're asked for documentation and you get a deadline of the 10th of October, you deliver your documentation on the 10th of October. Why would you deliver it sooner? Especially when the case is against you and you're not the actual plaintiff, you're the defendant. So anyway, moving on. Number 3 on a list of 5 from this week. Yeah, FATF hints at Binance. Jesus Christ, this is just ringing bells all over the place today. As example of an exchange avoiding regulation. Yeah, so FATF, if you're listening this week, you get my No Shit Sherlock Award. So congratulations. Feel free to stop by the office and pick it up whenever you guys are free. From all this fantastic work you're doing of realizing that Binance isn't doing what they're doing after 3 years of them not doing what they're supposed to do. Well, again, great precedent that they're putting it out there. It's great that the FATF is doing their job and not making people aware of this. I wish more regulators would make people aware of this because, by the way, regulators of the world, Binance operates pretty much in every country without the permission to do so. So, come on, get off your horse for a bit. Go on your websites, put those nice little warnings, and let's clean up the market together. Number 4 on a list of 5 from this week: cryptocurrency user profiling. Next up from FATF. Yeah, I mean, profiling might be a tough word here. Look, the Financial Action Task Force, their whole mantra here, their whole mission, according to the FATF, is to basically thwart the movement of illegal funds that fund, terrorism and criminal activities and et cetera, proceeds from criminal activities, et cetera, basically money laundering, right? So they want to understand how money flows. This is why things like DEXs and things that are starting to pop up now, things like Uniswap. Uniswap, from the high level, is a great idea, but everybody that commits money to those pools is facilitating potential money laundering. And, that's not something that groups like the FATF are really going to like. It's also not things that people affected by crime are generally going to like, because if the gun that shot your cousin was bought online with money laundered through a Uniswap trade, I'm pretty sure Uniswap's not going to be your friend. So there's still a lot of things that need to happen in the crypto space. I think profiling goes a little far. Look, I'm all for privacy. At the same time, I'm all for, getting criminal money out of the ecosystem. So there has to be a line you have to walk. The FATF sometimes walks over that line, but it's our job as mine, as a business owner in this industry, as anybody who deals in this industry, whether you're a trader, whether you're a passive investor, whatever, it is our collective job to make sure that the FATF has enough feedback from us so that they understand how to structure and how to create these type of, we need to reach out to legislators. We need to reach out. This is our collective job, right? If we don't reach out to them, what happens is they create laws and then enforce laws that are unjust, unkind, and don't make any sense. So we can't just sit back and complain. We have to take an active approach. And number 5 on the list of 5 from this week: global fiat failure will push countries to accumulate Bitcoin, says Max Kaiser. Look, Max is entertaining, but he's a bit of a buffoon. I know he's a Bitcoin maximalist. I know he's one of these guys that thinks Bitcoin's going to hit $1 billion because it's scarce and, whatever. Everybody and their mother's going to own Bitcoin. I've also seen a lot of stories right now about people saying that company treasuries are going to run now to own Bitcoin because one decent sized entity put Bitcoin into their treasury. No, they're not. Sorry. Just like they're not running to put diamonds in their treasury, they're not running to put gold into their treasury. No, not everyone's going to run to put Bitcoin. It's still a speculative asset. It's still something that many people don't understand. And the fact that it's scarce isn't going to force, taking a bet on, treasury is just supposed to be stable, guys. Companies' treasury, if it makes money, great. But it's all about risk versus gain. And they'd rather take no risk for no gain than take substantial risk for potentially substantial gain, even if the ratio of that substantial risk to substantial gain is, 5 to 1. Doesn't make any difference. So I don't think you will see large amounts of countries moving to eliminate their fiat reserves, especially US dollar, to get into Bitcoin. I don't see that happening. How nice would it be if it did happen? Well, I guess it'd be great if you're holding Bitcoin, and maybe for the industry as a whole, maybe. But also, the more that happens, the more Bitcoin becomes exactly what it didn't want to be, which was essentially a tool. What Bitcoin's ideal was, right, was to take the power, the centralized power, away from centralized government, things like that, and give it to the people, access, basically create a system where, all the power didn't sit at the top. But exactly what Matt Kaiser is describing is all the power sitting at the top. It's countries around the world, central banks owning the vast majority of Bitcoin. And then so what if it goes to $1 billion a coin when no one else actually owns it, because they end up accumulating the vast majority and then potentially have the power to dictate its price. So I don't get it. Anyway, that's the news for this week, guys. Week of September 16th. Thank you for listening in. If you want to ask me questions, AMA is coming up next, guys. So just stay tuned. You'll see it pop up on our channel at CoinMetro here on YouTube. You'll also see it pop up on Facebook and on my Twitter at Kevin Murcko. So please check us out. Make sure you give a thumbs up to this video. Make sure you heart it. Do whatever you need to do. Show us your love. Make sure we know that you like what you see. Post comments if you have them. If you have a question, like I said, AMA is coming up. Usually happens on Fridays, but since I missed last week, I'm doing it today. There'll also be another one on Friday, so check that out. And tag me if you wish on Telegram at Kevin Murcko. Also tag me or tweet me on Twitter at Kevin Murcko. And let me know what you think. Also have some Reddit questions this week, guys. So those are coming up in the AMA. So see you in a second.